Major Brenda Cole had been an Air Force nurse for 18 years. She was 42 years old, joined the Air Force Nurse Corps at 24 right out of nursing school at Johns Hopkins, deployed 6 times, Afghanistan 4 times, Iraq twice, spent half her adult life in combat zones, treating wounded airmen, soldiers, Marines, anyone who came through the doors bleeding. She was good at her job, skilled, professional, dedicated. But there was one patient she couldn't save, one casualty she couldn't treat, one person who died before she ever got the chance to help him. Captain Michael Torres, Air Force pilot, F-16 fighter jet, shot down over Afghanistan in 2011, declared killed in action, body never recovered, and the man Brenda Cole loved more than anything in the world. They'd met in 2009. Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan. Brenda was working in the base hospital. Michael was flying combat missions, close air support, precision strikes, the dangerous work that kept ground forces alive. He'd come to the hospital for a routine flight physical. She'd been the nurse assigned to his exam. Professional, clinical, standard procedure. But something happened. A connection. A spark. Something neither of them expected. They started talking. Coffee in the dining facility. Walks around the base perimeter. Stolen moments between shifts and missions. In a war zone, relationships moved fast. Because tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. Because every mission could be the last. Because life was too short to waste time pretending you didn't feel what you felt. By the end of that deployment, they were in love, talked about marriage, about leaving the Air Force, about building a life together somewhere quiet, somewhere safe, somewhere that wasn't a combat zone. But first they had more deployments, more missions, more time apart. When we both get out, Michael had said during their last conversation before his final mission, "We're getting married. I don't care where, I don't care when, but we're doing it, you and me, forever." Forever, Brenda had agreed. That was October 15th, 2011. The last time she saw him alive, October 16th, 2011. Michael's F-16 was shot down over Helmand Province. Surface-to-air missile, Taliban fighters. The plane exploded in mid-air. No ejection, no parachute, no distress signal. Search and rescue teams found wreckage, but no body, no remains, no sign that anyone had survived. The Air Force declared Captain Michael Torres killed in action. October 16th, 2011. Brenda received the notification 3 hours after the shoot-down. She was working in the hospital, treating a soldier with a gunshot wound. The casualty notification officer found her in the emergency department. "Major Cole, I need to speak with you privately." She knew immediately. The way he stood, the way he looked at her, the folder in his hands. "No," she'd said, just that one word. But the CNO continued anyway, because that was his job, to deliver the worst news anyone could receive. "Captain, Michael Torres was killed in action this morning at 0847 hours. His aircraft was shot down over Helmand Province. There were no survivors. The Air Force extends its deepest condolences for your loss." Brenda had stood there, numb, empty, waiting to feel something, anything. But there was nothing, just a vast emptiness where her future used to be. If this story of an Air Force nurse who grieved for 8 years believing her pilot boyfriend was dead, only to discover he was alive in a Taliban prisoner exchange, already has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe. What happens when Major Cole sees Captain Torres again after 8 years, and he doesn't recognize her, doesn't remember her, doesn't even know who she is will prove that some losses destroy you, some miracles break you even more, and some love survives even when memory doesn't. Now let's go back to understand who Brenda and Michael were together, and who Brenda became after losing him. Brenda and Michael had been opposites in many ways. She was quiet, methodical, careful, a nurse who measured risks and followed protocols. He was bold, confident, fearless, a fighter pilot who flew into enemy fire and came back smiling, but they balanced each other. She grounded him. He lifted her. Together they made sense. Their first real date was in Kabul, a 48-hour leave. They'd found a small cafe that catered to international workers, sat outside, drank terrible coffee, talked for hours. "Why nursing?" Michael had asked. "I wanted to help people, save lives, make a difference. And the Air Force? Loan repayment, adventure, a chance to see the world." She'd smiled. "Turns out the world is mostly deserts and forward operating bases. Could be worse. Could be better." "Could be," Michael agreed. "But then we wouldn't have met." They'd dated for 2 years. Deployments made it complicated. Months apart. Different bases, different time zones. But they made it work. Video calls, emails, letters written on actual paper because sometimes technology failed in combat zones. Michael proposed in March 2011. Nothing fancy, no ring, no ceremony, just the two of them sitting on sandbags outside the hospital during a rare quiet night. "Marry me." "What?" "When this deployment ends, when we're both stateside. Marry me." "Michael, we haven't even—" "I don't care. I love you. I want to spend my life with you. However long that is, wherever that is. Just say yes." Brenda had looked at him. This man who flew into danger every day, who risked everything every time he climbed into that cockpit, who might not come back from the next mission. Yes, they'd set a date, October 2012, after both their deployments ended, after they'd had time to plan, time to invite family, time to do it right. But Michael never made it to October 2012. Because October 16th, 2011 happened, and everything ended. Brenda didn't leave the Air Force after Michael died. She probably should have, but leaving felt like abandoning him, like admitting he was really gone. So she stayed, kept deploying, kept working, kept pretending she was fine, but she wasn't fine. She stopped dating, stopped making friends, stopped letting anyone get close, because getting close meant losing them. And she couldn't survive losing anyone else. Her work became her life. 18-hour shifts, extra deployments, volunteering for the hardest assignments, anything to stay busy, anything to avoid thinking. At night, she saw his face, heard his voice, remembered conversations they'd had, plans they'd made, the future they'd never get to have. The Air Force offered counseling, therapy, support groups for families of fallen service members. Brenda went to one session, sat in a room full of widows and parents and siblings, listened to them talk about their losses, their pain, their grief. But she couldn't speak, couldn't share, because what could she say? She wasn't his wife, wasn't his family, was just the girlfriend, the person who'd been planning to marry him but never got the chance. Her grief felt illegitimate, unauthorized, like she didn't have the right to hurt this much over someone she wasn't officially connected to. So she stopped going, dealt with it alone, carried it alone. For 8 years, colleagues noticed, asked if she was okay. Suggested she take time off. Take a break. Take care of herself. I'm fine, she always said. The standard lie. The easy answer. By 2019, Brenda was 42 years old. Major, 18 years of service, decorated, respected, and completely hollow inside. She worked at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany, the main medical facility for casualties from the Middle East. Soldiers and airmen passed through on their way to recovery or their way home. It was good work, important work, but every day felt the same. Wake up, work, sleep, repeat. Existing but not living. Until September 3rd, 2019, when everything changed. When the impossible happened. When Brenda Cole's carefully constructed world of grief and acceptance shattered completely. The notification came through official channels. A prisoner exchange. Taliban releasing American POWs. 3 prisoners, 2 soldiers, 1 airman. The airman's name wasn't released initially. Classified, need-to-know basis, but he was being flown to Landstuhl for medical evaluation and treatment. Brenda was assigned as his primary nurse. Standard procedure. She'd treated hundreds of returning POWs, knew the protocols, knew what to expect. POWs came back broken. Physically, psychologically, they needed time, treatment, patience, understanding. She'd seen it all. Malnutrition, torture wounds, PTSD so severe they couldn't function. It was heartbreaking every time. But it was the job. September 3rd, 2019. 14:30 hours, the C-17 landed at Ramstein Air Base. 3 POWs were transferred to Landstuhl. Brenda was in the hospital when they arrived. The 2 soldiers went to other nurses. The airman was hers. She was reviewing his preliminary medical file when the door opened. A medical team wheeled in a stretcher. The patient was unconscious, sedated for transport, covered in blankets. Major Cole, this is your patient. Captain. The medic paused, checking the chart. Captain Michael Torres, Air Force pilot, shot down 2011. Held captive 8 years, severe PTSD, malnutrition, multiple torture injuries. He's been sedated but may become violent when he wakes. Be careful. Brenda didn't hear anything after the name. Captain Michael Torres. Michael? Her Michael. The man who died 8 years ago. The man whose funeral she'd attended. Whose name was on a memorial wall, whose dog tag she still wore under her uniform. That's not possible. Her voice didn't sound like her own. Ma'am, Michael Torres died in 2011. I knew him. He's dead. The medic checked the chart again. According to this, he was held a prisoner by Taliban for 8 years. Just released in the exchange. It's definitely him. Fingerprints match, dental records match, DNA confirmed. Brenda moved to the stretcher on autopilot. Pulled back the blanket. Looked at his face. It was him. Older, thinner, scarred, broken. But him, Michael Torres. Alive. The man she'd loved. The man she'd grieved. The man she'd spent 8 years mourning. Alive. Her legs gave out. She sat down hard on the floor. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what she was seeing. Ma'am, are you okay? Should I get someone else? No. Brenda forced herself to stand. To breathe. To function. No, I'm fine. I can do this. I'm his nurse. I'll take care of him. Michael woke up 3 hours later. Brenda was there, monitoring his vitals, waiting, his eyes opened, confused, disoriented, afraid. Where Where am I? You're safe. You're at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center, Germany. You were released in a prisoner exchange. You're home. You're safe. Michael looked at her. No recognition. No spark. Nothing. Who are you? I'm Major Brenda Cole. I'm your nurse. I'm going to take care of you. Taliban? No, American Air Force. You're safe. I promise. Michael's breathing accelerated. Panic. This is a trick. You're lying. They always lie. Michael, listen to me. You're safe. Look around. This is a hospital. You're in Germany. The Taliban can't hurt you anymore. He looked around. At the medical equipment. The IV in his arm. The clean white walls. Slowly, the panic faded. Replaced by confusion. How long? How long what? How long was I there? 8 years. 8 years. He repeated it like he didn't understand the words. I was shot down in Angelet? Yes, October 16th, 2011. And now it's September 2019. I lost 8 years. Yes. Michael closed his eyes. A single tear ran down his face. I want to die. No, you don't. You survived. That takes incredible strength. You made it home. That's what matters. Home. The word sounded foreign in his mouth. I don't even remember what home looks like. Over the next week, Brenda treated his physical injuries. Malnutrition, dehydration, infected wounds from torture, broken bones that had healed wrong, chronic pain, vitamin deficiencies. The list went on. But the physical injuries were nothing compared to the psychological damage. Michael had severe PTSD, flashbacks, nightmares, panic attacks, dissociation. He couldn't tolerate being alone, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat without supervision, and he didn't remember anything from before the shoot-down. The Taliban had tortured him so severely for so long that his mind had blocked out everything. His childhood, his family, his Air Force career, his life. He didn't remember Brenda, didn't remember loving her, didn't remember proposing, didn't remember any of it. She was a stranger to him, a nurse, nothing more. Brenda could have told him, could have explained who she was, what they'd been to each other, what he'd meant to her. But she didn't, because Michael was broken, traumatized, barely functional. He needed stability, safety, professional care. He didn't need a grieving ex-girlfriend complicating his recovery with emotional baggage. So Brenda made a decision. She would be his nurse, help him heal, give him the best care possible, and never tell him who she really was. It was the hardest decision she'd ever made. Harder than the 8 years of grief. Harder than accepting his death. Because this time, he was alive, right in front of her. And she couldn't have him. She requested assignment as his long-term care nurse. The Air Force approved. Michael needed continuity of care, needed someone who understood his case. Brenda was perfect. So for the next 3 years, Brenda Cole became Michael Torres's nurse, his advocate, his support, the person who helped him relearn how to be human, but never his girlfriend, never the woman who loved him. Just the nurse who cared. Year 1 was hell. Michael couldn't function, couldn't be alone, couldn't handle crowds, couldn't sleep without nightmares, couldn't eat without throwing up. Brenda was there for all of it, holding his hand during panic attacks, talking him through flashbacks, sitting with him at 3 a.m. when the nightmares came. Tell me about before, Michael said one night. Before I was captured. What was I like? You were a pilot. F-16s, one of the best, fearless, confident. Everyone respected you. I don't feel fearless now. You're still here. That's fearless. Did I have anyone? Family? Friends? Someone who... Brenda's throat tightened. You had people who cared about you. Yes. Do they know I'm alive? Yes, your parents came to visit last month. Remember? Barely. Everything's blurry. It'll get better. Memory takes time. But the memories didn't come back. Not the ones that mattered. Michael remembered skills. How to fly. How to read maps. How to survive. But not people. Not relationships. Not love. Year 2 was better. Michael could function. Could be alone for short periods. Could eat regular meals. Could sleep most nights. The physical wounds healed. The psychological ones improved. Slowly. Brenda was still there. Still his nurse. Still the person he trusted most. But nothing more. "You've been with me for 2 years," Michael said during a therapy session where Brenda sat in for support. "Why?" "It's my job." "No, other nurses rotate. Other doctors change. But you're always here. Why? Because you need consistency. Stability. That's important for recovery." "Is that the only reason?" Brenda met his eyes. Saw the question there. The confusion. The beginning of something like recognition. "Yes," she lied. "That's the only reason. Year 3 was the turning point. Michael was functional. Could live independently. Could work again. The Air Force offered him a medical retirement. Full benefits. Honorable discharge. A chance to start over. He accepted. Moved to Colorado. Small town. Quiet. Peaceful. Away from military bases and combat zones. Brenda was scheduled to rotate to a new assignment. Her 3-year commitment to Michael's care was ending. She'd be assigned somewhere else. Somewhere far from Colorado. This was goodbye. Their last day together was March 15th, 2022. Brenda had helped Michael pack. Had driven him to his new apartment. Had made sure everything was set up. Safe. Ready. They stood in his living room, 10 years after he'd proposed, 3 years after he'd come back from the dead. The end of something that had never really begun. "Thank you," Michael said, "for everything. For 3 years of giving me my life back. I don't know how to repay that. You don't need to repay anything. I'm just glad you're okay. I still don't remember. Before the capture. Before the Taliban. It's just blank. The doctors say it might never come back. That's okay. You can make new memories. Better ones." Michael looked at her. Really looked at her. Like he was seeing something he couldn't quite grasp. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Did I know you? Before I was captured?" Brenda's breath caught. "Why do you ask?" "Because sometimes when I look at you, I feel something. Like I should remember. Like there's something important I'm forgetting. Am I crazy?" "No, you're not crazy." "Then did I know you?" This was the moment. Brenda could tell him. Could explain. Could give him back that piece of his past. But she looked at him, standing in his new apartment, in his new life. Healthy. Functional. Moving forward. And she made the same choice she'd made 3 years ago. "No," she lied. "We never met before 2019. You're probably just associating me with your recovery." "That's normal." Michael nodded slowly, accepted it. Because he trusted her. Because in 3 years she'd never lied to him before. "Okay, I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something important." "You're not missing anything. I promise." They said goodbye. Professional. Clinical. The way a nurse says goodbye to a patient she'll never see again. Brenda drove away. Made it 3 miles before pulling over. And cried for the second time in her life over Michael Torres. Once for the man who died. Once for the man who lived but couldn't remember her. Brenda continued her Air Force career. Deployed again. Worked. Existed. The same empty routine as before. Except now she knew Michael was alive. Somewhere. Living his life. Without her, it should have been easier. Knowing he was alive. Safe. happy. But it wasn't, because now she knew what she'd lost. Not just the man she loved, but the chance to have him back, the choice to tell him, the possibility of rebuilding what they'd had. She'd chosen his recovery over her own happiness, chosen his peace over her truth, and she'd have to live with that forever. September 2022. Brenda was at Landstuhl, working a night shift. A slow evening, her phone rang. Unknown number. Colorado area code. Major Cole. Brenda? It's Michael. Her heart stopped. Michael? Is everything okay? Are you? I'm fine. I'm good. But I need to tell you something. Can you talk? Yes, of course. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I've been seeing a new therapist, specialized in memory recovery. She's been using some experimental techniques, and last week something happened. I remembered something. What did you remember? You. Brenda couldn't breathe. I remembered us. Bagram, 2009. Coffee in the dining facility. You laughing at my terrible jokes, walking around the base, talking about the future. I remembered proposing, remembered planning to marry you, remembered loving you. Michael, why didn't you tell me? 3 years. You were there for 3 years, taking care of me, and you never said anything. Why? Because you needed to heal. You needed stability. You didn't need me complicating your recovery with emotional baggage from a past you couldn't remember. That wasn't your decision to make. I know, but I made it anyway. I'm sorry. Are you? Sorry? Yes. And no. You recovered. You're healthy. You're living your life. If I'd told you, that might not have happened. Michael was quiet for a long time. I lost 8 years to the Taliban. I don't want to lose any more time. Not now. Not when I finally remember what I'm fighting for. What are you saying? I'm saying I still love you. I didn't remember you, but I felt something the whole time. The doctors say that's common. The heart remembers even when the mind doesn't. And now that I do remember, I don't want to lose you again. I can't. Michael, it's been 11 years. I don't care. We said forever. I still mean it. Do you? Brenda closed her eyes, saw their entire history, meeting, falling in love, losing him, grieving him, finding him, losing him again, all the choices, all the pain, all the years. Yes, she whispered, I still mean it. Then come home, to Colorado, to me. Let's finish what we started. Brenda retired from the Air Force in December 2022, after 20 years of service. Colonel, decorated, respected, and finally ready to stop running. She moved to Colorado, to Michael's small town, to the life they'd planned 12 years ago. The recovery was slow. Michael still had PTSD, still had flashbacks, still had days where the memories came back and he couldn't function. But Brenda was there, not as his nurse, as his partner, his equal, the woman who'd waited 11 years for him to come home. They married in March 2023. Small ceremony, Michael's parents, Brenda's family, a few close friends. Nothing fancy, just two people who'd lost everything and somehow found each other again. During the vows, Michael held Brenda's hands and said, I lost 8 years, but I found you, and that makes everything worth it. Forever. Forever, Brenda agreed. The same word they'd said in 2011. The same promise. Finally kept. Michael still didn't remember everything. Probably never would. There were gaps, blank spaces where memories should be, pieces of his past that were gone forever. But he remembered her, remembered loving her, remembered proposing, and that was enough. They built a new life, a quiet life, away from war zones and military bases, away from combat and casualties and death. Michael worked as a flight instructor, teaching civilian pilots, staying connected to flying without the combat, without the missions that had nearly killed him. Brenda worked at a local hospital, emergency department, helping people, saving lives, doing what she'd always done, but going home to Michael every night. On their first anniversary, they visited Arlington National Cemetery, stood in front of the memorial wall where Michael's name had been inscribed, Killed in Action, October 16th, 2011. "That's my name," Michael said quietly. "I'm dead. Officially." "You were dead. Now you're alive. 8 years dead, 11 years lost. But I'm here. We're here. Yes. Was it worth it? The wait? The grief? Everything?" Brenda looked at him. The man she'd loved and lost and found and almost lost again. The man who'd died and come back. The man who'd forgotten her and remembered her. The man who was standing beside her, alive, when he should have been dead. "Yes," she said, "every second of it, because you're here, and that's all that matters." They walked away from the memorial, away from the names of the dead, back to the car, back to their life, two people who'd survived the impossible, who'd found each other despite everything, who'd proven that some love survives even death, even memory, even time. 8 years dead, 11 years lost, but alive, together, finally.